The stagecoach rattled into Park City, Utah on a blistering afternoon in July of 1882, carrying a woman who had survived 3 days without food and a night when bandits murdered the driver and took everything except her life. Sophia Turner clutched the torn fabric of her dress as the replacement driver helped her down, her legs shaking so badly she nearly collapsed onto the dusty Main Street. She had 23 years behind her and nothing ahead, except the address of a distant cousin who might not even remember her mother's sister from Kentucky. The driver pointed toward the general store. "Miss, you best get yourself some water. You look about ready to faint." Sophia nodded, unable to form words through her parched throat. Park City bustled with activity, miners coming down from the silver claims in the surrounding mountains, their faces begrimed and their pockets heavy. She stumbled toward the store, aware of the stares following her disheveled appearance. Her dark hair had come loose from its pins, her green eyes were rimmed with exhaustion, and the hem of her dress bore the evidence of her ordeal. Inside the store, the proprietor took one look at her and poured a dipper of water without asking for payment. Sophia drank it down, then another, before finally finding her voice. "Thank you, sir. I need to find someone. My cousin, Mary Hutchins. You know where she lives?" The proprietor's expression shifted to something resembling pity. "Mary Hutchins passed on 2 winters ago. Pneumonia took her fast." The words hit Sophia like a physical blow. She gripped the counter to steady herself. "Are you certain?" "Yes, miss. I am sorry for your loss." Sophia stood there, the reality of her situation crushing down on her shoulders. She had no money, no place to stay, and now no family in this mountain town. The gold locket around her neck was the only thing the bandits had not taken, likely because it was hidden beneath her dress. It had been her mother's, worth perhaps enough to buy a few meals but not much more. "Is there work in this town?" she asked quietly. "I can cook, clean, mend clothes." The proprietor scratched his beard. "The boarding house might need help. Mrs. Patterson runs it 2 streets over." "The white building with the blue shutters. Tell her Samuel sent you." Sophia thanked him and walked back into the afternoon heat. Park City sat at over 7,000 feet in the Wasatch Mountains, and despite the summer sun, the air carried a crispness that promised cold nights. She found the boarding house easily enough, a well-maintained 2-story structure that looked like it had been built within the last decade, as the mining boom brought people flooding into the area. Mrs. Patterson was a stout woman in her 50s with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense manner. She looked Sophia up and down, taking in the torn dress and the desperation barely concealed behind a facade of dignity. "You have experience?" "Yes, madam. I kept house for my father until he passed 6 months ago. I can cook, clean, do laundry, and mend." "You read and write, Mrs. Patterson asked. Sophia felt heat rise to her cheeks. This was the moment she always dreaded. "No, madam, I never had the schooling." Mrs. Patterson considered this. "Well, I need someone who can keep the books, but my current girl is leaving to get married. I suppose I could do the books myself if I had help with the heavier work. Room and board plus $2 a week. You start tomorrow morning, 5 o'clock sharp." Relief flooded through Sophia. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. You would not regret this." "I had better not." "The room is upstairs, last door on the right. It is small but clean. There is water in the pitcher and I expect you at dinner in an hour. We feed the boarders at 6. The room was indeed small, barely large enough for a narrow bed, a washstand, and a hook on the wall for clothes. But it had a window overlooking the street and a lock on the door, which made it a palace compared to sleeping in the stagecoach. Sophia washed as best she could with the cold water, pinned her hair back properly, and tried to make herself presentable despite having only the one damaged dress. Dinner was a bustling affair with 8 boarders, mostly miners and one traveling salesman. Sophia helped Mrs. Patterson serve beef stew, fresh bread, and apple pie. The men ate with the single-minded focus of those who worked physically demanding jobs. She was clearing plates when one of the miners, a grizzled man with gray in his beard, spoke to her. "You are new here, miss?" "Yes, sir, I arrived today." "Well, welcome to Park City. It is a good town if you do not mind the winters." Another man, younger and cleaner than the miners, looked up from his coffee. "Do not scare her off, Pete. The winters are not that bad," Pete laughed. "Says the man who spends half of them down in Salt Lake City." The younger man smiled, and Sophia noticed for the first time how striking he was. Tall and lean, probably around 25, with dark blonde hair and blue eyes that seemed to take in everything. He wore working clothes, but they were of better quality than the miner's gear, and his hands, while calloused, were not blackened with ore dust. "I am Logan Xavier," he said, standing and extending his hand. "I run cattle in the valley north of here, down for supplies and to check on some business." Sophia shook his hand briefly, aware of Mrs. Patterson watching. "Sophia Turner, pleased to meet you." "Likewise." Logan's gaze lingered on her face for a moment longer, something curious in his expression, before he sat back down. Sophia returned to the kitchen, her heart beating faster than it should. She told herself it was just exhaustion from the journey, but she found herself aware of exactly where Logan sat in the dining room, the sound of his voice as he talked with the other boarders. Mrs. Patterson put her to work washing dishes, a mountain of them in the big sink. "That Logan Xavier is a good man," she said conversationally. "Built up a fine ranch from nothing. His parents died of cholera when he was 16, left him with a piece of land and 10 head of cattle. Now he runs near 500 head and employs 4 hands year-round." "That is impressive," Sophia said, scrubbing a pot. "He is also unmarried, which I am sure you noticed." Mrs. Patterson gave her a pointed look. "But do not get ideas. Half the girls in Park City have set their caps for him, including the banker's daughter. A working girl in a boarding house would not be his first choice." Sophia felt her cheeks burn. "I was not thinking any such thing, madam. I just arrived and I am grateful for the work. See that you remember it." Mrs. Patterson's tone softened slightly. "I am not saying you are not a pretty girl, but you need to be practical. Men like Logan Xavier marry girls with property or education, not kitchen help who cannot even read." The words stung because they were true. Sophia had known her whole life that her illiteracy was a mark against her, a source of shame. Her father had been a farmer, barely scraping by, and there had been no money for schooling. By the time there might have been an opportunity, she was needed at home to help with the work. She had taught herself to recognize a few important words, enough to avoid being completely helpless, but actual reading was as foreign to her as Latin. She finished the dishes and helped prepare the kitchen for breakfast, before finally being allowed to retreat to her small room. The bed was surprisingly comfortable and clean sheets smelled of lavender. Sophia lay in the darkness, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the town settling for the night. Tomorrow would be her first full day of work, and she needed to prove herself valuable enough to keep. Sleep came fitfully, troubled by dreams of bandits and stagecoaches tumbling into ravines. Morning arrived before dawn, announced by Mrs. Patterson's sharp knock on the door. "Up now, girl. The stove will not light itself." Sophia dressed quickly in her one dress, now mended as well as she could manage with needle and thread borrowed from Mrs. Patterson. In the kitchen, she learned the morning routine: fire in the stove, coffee in the big pot, biscuits mixed and baking, bacon sizzling in the cast iron, eggs scrambled for those who wanted them. Mrs. Patterson supervised closely, correcting her technique, but nodding approvingly at her willingness to work hard. The boarders began filtering in around 6, drawn by the smell of food. Logan Xavier was among them, freshly shaved and looking alert despite the early hour. He nodded to Sophia as she poured his coffee. "Thank you, Miss Turner. You are welcome, Mr. Xavier." She moved on to the next boarder, but she felt his eyes following her. It made her nervous and pleased in equal measure, which was foolish. Mrs. Patterson was right. She needed to focus on keeping her job, not on a rancher who was far above her station. The days fell into a rhythm. Wake before dawn, help with breakfast, clean the boarding house from top to bottom, help with lunch, more cleaning, help with dinner, clean the kitchen, fall into bed exhausted. It was hard work but honest, and Sophia threw herself into it with determination. Mrs. Patterson was a demanding employer but fair, and she began to trust Sophia with more responsibilities. Logan Xavier stayed at the boarding house for 3 days before returning to his ranch, but Sophia found herself thinking about him more than was wise. He had been unfailingly polite, with a quick smile and a way of making conversation that put people at ease. She learned from the other boarders that he was well respected in the area, known for treating his ranch hands fairly and always paying his debts. A week after she arrived in Park City, Sophia had her first afternoon off. Mrs. Patterson shooed her out of the boarding house. "You have been working like a demon. Go walk around town, get some fresh air. Be back by 5 to help with dinner." Sophia walked the main street, looking in shop windows at things she could not afford. The dressmaker had a lovely blue calico in the window that would have suited her coloring. The bookstore was full of volumes she could not read. She was standing in front of the latter, staring at the incomprehensible titles displayed behind the glass, when a familiar voice spoke behind her. "See anything interesting?" She turned to find Logan Xavier, hat in hand, smiling at her. Her heart did an uncomfortable flip. "Mr. Xavier, I thought you returned to your ranch." "I did, but I had to come back for some equipment that just arrived on the train." "Are you shopping for books?" The question was innocent, but it felt like a trap. Sophia shook her head. "Just looking." "I have always been partial to a good book myself," Logan said, gazing at the window display. "Though I do not get as much time to read as I would like. Running a ranch keeps you busy from dawn to dark and then some." Sophia nodded, unsure what to say. Logan glanced at her, and something in her expression must have given away her discomfort. "Would you like to get a lemonade? There is a stand just down the street, and it is a warm afternoon." She knew she should say no. Mrs. Patterson's warning echoed in her mind. But Logan's blue eyes were kind, and she had been so lonely since arriving in Park City. "That would be nice, thank you." They walked to the lemonade stand, and Logan bought 2 glasses. They sat on a bench in the shade of a large cottonwood tree, watching the flow of people and wagons along the street. "How are you finding Park City?" Logan asked. "It is a good town, different from Kentucky, but I like the mountains." "Kentucky? That is a long way to travel." Sophia told him about her father's death, about the cousin who was supposed to take her in, leaving out the worst details of the stagecoach robbery. Logan listened attentively, his expression sympathetic. "I am sorry about your father and your cousin," he said when she finished. "But I am glad you found a position with Mrs. Patterson. She runs a good establishment. She does. I am grateful for the work." They talked for a while longer, easy conversation that felt natural despite their difference in circumstances. Logan told her about his ranch, about the challenges of raising cattle in mountain country, about the hands who worked for him. Sophia found herself relaxing, laughing at his stories about stubborn cows and the time a bull crashed through the barn wall. When she finally glanced at the church clock, she gasped. "I need to get back. Mrs. Patterson will have my hide if I am late for dinner preparations. Logan walked her back to the boarding house. At the door, he hesitated, then said, I enjoyed talking with you, Miss Turner. Would it be all right if I called on you again when I am in town? Sophia's practical side warred with the hope blooming in her chest. I do not think that would be appropriate, Mr. Xavier. Mrs. Patterson has certain expectations about her employees. I understand. Logan smiled, but she saw disappointment flicker across his face. Well, I suppose I will see you at dinner then. I am staying another night before heading back. She watched him walk away, then hurried inside to face Mrs. Patterson's knowing look. Saw you from the window, the older woman said. Walking with Logan Xavier in broad daylight. He offered me a lemonade. I did not think it would hurt anything. Mrs. Patterson sighed. Girl, I warned you. Logan Xavier is not for you. He needs a wife who can help him run that ranch. Someone who can keep the books and handle correspondence with buyers. You seem like a sweet thing, but you are not suited for that life. The words hurt more because Sophia had been thinking the exact same thing. If only she could read and write, if only she had some education, maybe she could be the kind of woman a man like Logan would court seriously. That evening at dinner, Logan was polite but distant, sensing perhaps that she was pulling back. He left early the next morning, and Sophia threw herself into work to avoid thinking about him. 3 weeks passed. The height of summer brought hot days and cool nights to the mountains. Sophia learned every aspect of running the boarding house, becoming indispensable to Mrs. Patterson. She made a few friends among the other working women in town, girls who did laundry or worked in the shops. They would sometimes walk together on Sunday afternoons, the only time any of them had free. Then Logan returned to Park City, checking in at the boarding house like always. Sophia's heart leaped when she saw him in the dining room, though she tried to keep her expression neutral. He was friendly but proper, treating her exactly as he treated Mrs. Patterson. On his second evening there, after dinner was cleared and the kitchen cleaned, Sophia went out to the back porch for a breath of air. The sun had just set, painting the mountains in shades of purple and gold. She was so absorbed in the view that she did not hear footsteps until Logan spoke. Beautiful, is not it? I never get tired of watching the sunset over these peaks. She turned, startled. Mr. Xavier, I did not hear you. I did not mean to intrude. I saw you come out here and I thought maybe we could talk. He paused, turning his hat in his hands. I have been thinking about you since I left, more than is probably sensible. Sophia's breath caught. Mr. Xavier, I do not think this is wise. Logan, please call me Logan. He moved closer, and in the fading light his eyes were very blue. I know there are differences between us in our circumstances, but I have never met a woman who interested me the way you do. You are kind and hardworking, and you have this strength in you, like you have survived things that would break other people. You barely know me, she whispered. Then let me get to know you better. Let me court you properly. Everything in Sophia wanted to say yes, but Mrs. Patterson's words echoed in her mind. He needs a wife who can help him run that ranch. She looked down at her work-roughened hands, gathering courage for what she had to say. There is something you should know about me. Her voice was barely audible, something that would change your mind. I doubt that very much. She forced herself to meet his eyes. I cannot read or write, Logan, not even a little. I never had any schooling, and I am too old now to learn. A man like you needs someone educated, someone who could help with the business side of ranching. I am just a boarding house maid who can barely sign her own name. The confession hung in the air between them. Sophia waited for him to make excuses and leave, to realize what a poor match she would be. Instead, Logan stepped closer and gently took her hand. Then I will teach you every night, he said simply. Reading and writing are just skills, Sophia. They can be learned. What matters is the person you are, and from what I have seen, you are exactly the kind of woman I have been hoping to find. Tears sprang to Sophia's eyes. You cannot mean that. I absolutely mean it. I learned to read from my mother before she died. It would be my honor to teach you. He squeezed her hand gently. If you will let me court you, I promise to be patient. We will take it slow, let you get comfortable with the lessons and with me. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other. Sophia wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. Mrs. Patterson said I should not get ideas above my station. Mrs. Patterson does not get to decide who I court. Logan's voice was firm. I respect her, but this is between you and me. What do you say, Sophia? Will you give me a chance? She looked into his earnest face, saw the sincerity there, and felt something shift inside her. Maybe she was being foolish. Maybe this would end badly. But Logan Xavier was offering her something she had never dared hope for, the chance to better herself and to be with someone who saw past her limitations. Yes, she said softly. Yes, I will. Logan's smile could have lit up the darkening evening. Thank you. You will not regret this, I promise. They stood there on the porch, hands clasped, until the dinner bell rang inside and reality intruded. Logan squeezed her hand once more before releasing it. I will be in town for 4 more days, he said. Maybe tomorrow evening, after your work is done, we could start with the first lesson. Sophia nodded, not trusting her voice. Logan smiled again and went inside, leaving her standing in the twilight, her heart pounding with hope and fear in equal measure. True to his word, Logan appeared the next evening with a slate and chalk, borrowed from the schoolteacher. Mrs. Patterson gave Sophia a long look when she asked for an hour off after dinner, but she did not object. Perhaps she sensed this was something that could not be prevented, or perhaps she saw the determination in Sophia's eyes. They sat in the small parlor that Mrs. Patterson used for guests, a lamp casting a warm circle of light over the table. Logan drew a letter on the slate. We will start simple, he said. This is the letter A. It makes the sound you hear at the beginning of apple or and. Sophia stared at the letter, trying to commit its shape to memory. Logan handed her the chalk. Now you try. Her first attempt was shaky, the lines uneven. Logan patiently guided her hand, showing her how to form the letter properly. They practiced for 20 minutes before moving on to B. By the end of the hour, Sophia's hand ached and her head swam with new information, but she had learned 5 letters. You are doing wonderfully, Logan said as he helped her clean the slate. Tomorrow we will review these and add a few more. It is harder than I thought it would be, Sophia admitted. Learning anything new is hard at first, but you are smart and determined. You will get this, I promise. The praise warmed her more than it should. They said goodnight, and Sophia went upstairs to her room, where she practiced drawing the 5 letters from memory until she could do them without thinking. The lessons became a nightly ritual whenever Logan was in town. He had business that required his presence in Park City several times a week, and he always stayed at Mrs. Patterson's boarding house. Each evening after dinner, they would retreat to the parlor for an hour of instruction. Logan was patient and encouraging, never making Sophia feel stupid for her mistakes. He celebrated every small victory, every new letter learned, every word she managed to sound out. As the weeks passed, Sophia began to see real progress. She learned the full alphabet, then started putting letters together into simple words. Cat, dog, hat, sun. Each word she managed to read felt like a miracle. Logan brought her a primer meant for children, and though it was sometimes embarrassing to struggle through lessons designed for 6-year-olds, Sophia swallowed her pride and kept working. The lessons were not all they shared. They talked during those evening hours, learning about each other. Logan told her about growing up on the ranch, about losing his parents to cholera when he was barely more than a boy, about the loneliness of building something with no family to share it with. Sophia shared her own stories, the hardscrabble life in Kentucky, her father's slow decline after her mother died, the desperate hope that had brought her west. "I wish I could have met your father," Logan said one evening. "He raised a remarkable daughter. He did his best with what he had." "I think he would have liked you. I hope so." Logan's hand covered hers on the table. "Because I am falling in love with you, Sophia Turner, and I would have liked his blessing." Sophia's heart stuttered. They had been courting for 6 weeks, and while affection had grown steadily between them, this was the first time either had spoken of love. "Logan, You do not have to say it back," he interrupted gently. "I just needed you to know. I have never felt this way about anyone, and every day I spend with you just confirms what I already knew. You are the woman I want beside me for the rest of my life." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. "I love you too." "I have been afraid to say it, afraid that this is all too good to be true and it will be taken away." Logan stood and pulled her to her feet, his hands gentle on her arms. "It is real, and I am not going anywhere. You are stuck with me now." He leaned down and kissed her, soft and sweet, and Sophia felt like her heart might burst from happiness. When they pulled apart, both were smiling like fools. Mrs. Patterson's attitude had shifted over the weeks, from disapproval to grudging acceptance. She could not deny that Logan's intentions were serious, and she had seen how hard Sophia worked at her lessons. One morning, while they were preparing breakfast, she said, "That man is serious about you." "I know," Sophia said, unable to keep the joy from her voice. "Can you handle being a rancher's wife? It is hard work, isolation, different from town living." "I am not afraid of hard work, and I would be with Logan." Mrs. Patterson nodded slowly. "You have come a long way from the half-starved girl who showed up on my doorstep. Your reading is improving. Just make sure you are ready before you make any commitments." "I will," Sophia promised. In late September, as the aspen trees turned gold on the mountainsides, Logan took Sophia to see his ranch. They rode out on a Sunday morning, Sophia on a gentle mare that Logan assured her would not give her any trouble. The ranch was about 10 miles north of Park City, situated in a broad valley surrounded by mountains. The main house was log construction, solid and well built, with a wide porch and stone chimney. Beyond it were the barn, bunkhouse, corrals, and various outbuildings. 4 ranch hands emerged as they rode up, curious about the woman Logan had brought. He introduced Sophia to all of them. Sam, the foreman, a weathered man in his 40s, Jack and Pete, brothers in their 20s who handled most of the cattle work, and Henry, a young man barely 18 who helped with everything. "Pleased to meet you, madam," Sam said, tipping his hat. "Boss has told us about you. All good things, I hope," Sophia said with a smile. "Nothing but," Sam assured her. Logan showed her around the property, pride evident in every word. He had built all of this himself, starting with 10 cows and a dream. Now he ran 500 head on deeded land and government lease, with plans to expand further. The house was comfortable if not fancy, with 2 bedrooms, a main room that served as kitchen and parlor, and a loft above. "It needs a woman's touch," Logan admitted as they stood in the main room. "I built it functional, but I am not much for decoration." "It is wonderful," Sophia said honestly. The house was clean and well-maintained, with good furniture and a massive fireplace that would keep the place warm through the mountain winters. She could imagine herself here, cooking at that stove, sitting by that fire with Logan in the evenings. They ate lunch with the hands in the bunkhouse, a rowdy affair with good food and better company. The men clearly respected Logan, and they were welcoming to Sophia once they understood she was not putting on airs. After lunch, Logan saddled fresh horses and took her riding through the valley, showing her the grazing cattle and the creek that ran year-round. "What do you think?" he asked as they paused on a hill overlooking the ranch buildings. "Could you be happy here?" Sophia looked out over the valley, at the mountains rising on all sides, at the cattle dotting the grassland, and the ranch that Logan had built with his own hands. She thought about the life they could have together, the children they might raise in this beautiful place. "I could be very happy here," she said. "With you." Logan dismounted and helped her down, then pulled a small box from his pocket. Sophia's breath caught as he dropped to one knee. "Sophia Turner, I know we have not been courting for very long by conventional standards. But I am 30 years old and I have waited my whole adult life to find someone like you. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love another person, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" He opened the box to reveal a simple gold band with a small diamond. It was not ostentatious, but it was beautiful, and Sophia knew it represented a significant investment for a rancher. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Logan, I will marry you." He stood and swept her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that made her dizzy. When they finally broke apart, he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They rode back to Park City in the gathering dusk, hands clasped whenever the horses walked close enough. At the boarding house, Logan announced their engagement to Mrs. Patterson, who smiled for the first time in Sophia's memory. "Well, I suppose you proved me wrong," she said to Sophia. "I am happy for you both." "When is the wedding?" "Soon," Logan said, looking at Sophia. "If that is acceptable to you, the sooner the better," Sophia agreed. They settled on 6 weeks, which would give Sophia time to have a proper dress made and for Logan to prepare the ranch for a new mistress. Sophia continued her reading lessons with even more determination now. She wanted to be able to help Logan with the ranch business, to be a true partner rather than a burden. The reading came easier as time went on, her brain slowly adjusting to the strange symbols and the way they combined to form words and sentences. Logan started teaching her to write as well, guiding her hand through the letters of her name until she could sign Sophia Turner in a clear, if somewhat labored, script. "Soon it will be Sophia Xavier," Logan said, watching her practice. "Unless you want to keep your maiden name." "No," Sophia said firmly. "I want your name. I want to be your wife in every way." The wedding took place on a crisp November morning, with golden aspen leaves carpeting the ground around the small church in Park City. Sophia wore a dress of deep blue wool, practical but beautiful, with her mother's locket around her neck. Logan stood at the altar in his best suit, his eyes locked on her as she walked down the aisle. Mrs. Patterson attended, along with the ranch hands and several of Sophia's friends from town. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Logan kissed her with such tenderness that Sophia felt tears on her cheeks. After a wedding breakfast at the boarding house, Logan helped Sophia into the wagon that would take them to their new home. Her few possessions were packed in a trunk, everything she owned in the world fitting into a single box, but she did not care about material things. She had Logan, and she had a home, and she had a future brighter than any she had dared imagine. The ranch felt different now that it was truly hers. Sam and the other hands had decorated the porch with pine boughs and had cleaned the house until it sparkled. They cheered as Logan carried Sophia over the threshold, then discreetly disappeared to the bunkhouse to give the newlyweds privacy. That first night in their own home, Logan built up the fire and poured them each a small glass of whiskey to celebrate. They sat together on the couch he had built himself, Sophia's head resting on his shoulder. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she said. "Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing past what I could not do to what I could become." "You were always everything I wanted," Logan said. "The reading and writing were just skills. You are the one who is extraordinary." They made love that night with a tenderness that spoke of deep feeling rather than just physical passion. Logan was patient and gentle, mindful that this was new territory for Sophia. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the big bed, listening to the wind whisper around the corners of the house. "Tell me about your dreams," Sophia said. "What do you want for the future?" Logan was quiet for a moment. "I want to build this ranch into something that will last, something we can pass on to our children. I want to be fair to the men who work for me and honest in my business dealings. I want to grow old with you watching sunsets from that porch. Those are my dreams." "Children," Sophia repeated softly. "I would like that. A family of our own." "However many you want," Logan said, kissing her forehead. "Though I warn you, if they take after me, they will be stubborn as mules." Sophia laughed. "And if they take after me, then they will be strong and determined and absolutely remarkable." Life on the ranch was indeed hard work, as Mrs. Patterson had warned. Sophia rose before dawn to cook breakfast for Logan and the hands, then spent her days managing the house, tending the vegetable garden, preserving food for winter, and learning the 1,000 skills a ranch wife needed. Logan's mother had left behind recipe books and household guides, and Sophia painstakingly worked through them, her reading improving with every recipe she deciphered. Logan kept his promise about the lessons. Every evening after dinner, they would sit at the kitchen table and work on reading and writing. Sophia graduated from the children's primer to simple novels, stumbling over unfamiliar words but persisting. Logan also taught her basic arithmetic and bookkeeping, skills she would need to help manage the ranch finances. Winter came hard to the mountains that year. Snow began falling in late November and did not let up until April. The ranch was often isolated for days at a time, the roads impassable. But Sophia found she did not mind the isolation. She had Logan, and the house was warm, and there was something cozy about being snowed in together. On Christmas Eve, Logan presented her with a gift wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a leather-bound journal and a good pen. "For your thoughts," he said. "You write well enough now to keep a diary if you want. I thought you might like to record our life together." Sophia ran her fingers over the smooth leather, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the gift. That night, she made her first entry, writing slowly but clearly. "Today is the first Christmas with my husband Logan. I am the happiest I have ever been." Spring brought new life to the ranch. The cattle that had been brought down to lower pastures for the winter were driven back up to the high country. Calving season was frantic and exhausting, with Logan and the hands working around the clock to ensure the new calves survived. Sophia helped where she could, learning to bottle feed orphaned calves and to recognize signs of trouble. In May, Sophia missed her monthly courses. She waited another month to be certain, then told Logan the news one evening after dinner. His whoop of joy could probably be heard in Park City. He picked her up and spun her around, careful despite his excitement. "A baby," he kept saying. "We are having a baby." "We are," Sophia confirmed, laughing at his reaction. "Though you need to be careful, I am not made of glass. I know I am sorry, I am just so happy." Logan set her down gently, his hands cradling her face. "You have given me everything I ever wanted." The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the summer. Sophia continued her daily work, only reluctantly cutting back on the heaviest tasks when Logan and Sam ganged up on her. Her reading had improved to the point where she could help with ranch correspondence, carefully drafting letters to cattle buyers and hay suppliers. Logan always checked them before they went out, but he needed to make fewer and fewer corrections. In late January of 1884, during a brief warm spell between storms, Sophia went into labor. Logan had brought a midwife from Park City to stay at the ranch for the last 2 weeks, an experienced woman named Mrs. Green who had delivered half the babies in the county. The labor lasted 14 hours, long and hard, but when it was over, Sophia held a squalling baby boy with his father's blue eyes and a surprising amount of dark hair. "He is perfect," Logan whispered, tears running unashamedly down his face. "You are perfect. Thank you, Sophia." They named him Samuel Logan Xavier, Sam for short, and the baby became the center of their universe. Logan was a devoted father, getting up for nighttime feedings and diaper changes without complaint. The ranch hands were equally smitten, taking turns carving toys and arguing over who got to hold the baby. Life settled into a new rhythm, busier but richer. Sophia learned to balance caring for Sam with her other responsibilities. She also continued her reading lessons, though they happened less frequently now. She had progressed to the point where she could read most things without help, though complex texts still challenged her. When Sam was 6 months old, Sophia discovered she was pregnant again. Logan was delighted, though slightly worried about her handling 2 babies so close in age. "Women have been managing for thousands of years," Sophia reminded him. "I will be fine." Their daughter was born in the spring of 1885, an easier delivery than Sam's had been. They named her Elizabeth Rose Xavier, Lizzie for short. She had her mother's green eyes and a disposition that was already noticeably calmer than her brother's. The ranch continued to prosper. Logan's reputation for quality cattle and honest dealing brought buyers from as far as Denver and San Francisco. They were able to hire additional hands and purchase more cattle. Logan built an addition onto the house, adding 2 more bedrooms and a proper dining room. Sophia kept her journal faithfully, recording the small moments and the large. Sam's first steps, Lizzie's first words, the spring flood that nearly took out the bridge, the record snowfall that kept them isolated for 3 weeks. She also wrote about her feelings, her gratitude for the life she had built, her love for Logan that seemed to deepen with every passing year. One evening, when Sam was 4 and Lizzie was 3, Logan came in from the barn to find Sophia reading to the children from a storybook. He stood in the doorway, unnoticed, watching his wife sound out the words with barely a hesitation, watching his children hang on every word. When the story ended, Sam immediately demanded another. "Not tonight, sweetheart," Sophia said, kissing his forehead. "It is bedtime. Your papa can read you one more if you ask nicely." "Papa, please." Sam turned his blue eyes on Logan, who could never resist. "All right, one more, but then straight to sleep." After the children were tucked in, Logan found Sophia in the kitchen, cleaning up from dinner. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You remember the first time I saw you reading to them?" he asked. "How far you have come from that woman who could not even write her own name." "I remember everything," Sophia said softly. "I remember being terrified that you would realize what a poor choice I was, that you would see I was not good enough for you. That thought never crossed my mind." Logan turned her around to face him. "Not once. You were always more than good enough. The reading was just something we worked on together, but you were already everything I needed." "I love you," Sophia said, standing on tiptoe to kiss him. "Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for giving me a family, a home, a life worth living." Logan kissed her back, deep and sweet. "You are my everything, Sophia Xavier." As the years passed, the ranch continued to grow, and so did their family. Another son, Thomas, arrived in 1887, followed by a daughter, Mary, in 1889. The house was always full of noise and laughter, with children running through the rooms and ranch hands stopping by for meals. Sophia managed it all with grace and competence. The scared young woman who had arrived in Park City transformed into a confident rancher's wife. She never stopped learning. Her reading became fluent enough that she could tackle complex novels and even help Sam with his schoolwork when Logan hired a tutor to come to the ranch 3 times a week. She learned to keep the ranch books, her careful figures tracking every penny that came in or went out. Logan trusted her judgment on business matters, often consulting her before making major decisions. Sam grew into a serious boy who loved the ranch and animals, already talking about taking over the operation when he was grown. Lizzie was more interested in books than cattle, spending hours reading anything she could get her hands on. Thomas had his father's easygoing nature and his mother's determination. Mary was still too young to show her personality, but she had the whole family wrapped around her tiny finger. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Logan surprised Sophia with a trip to Salt Lake City. It was the first time she had been more than 20 miles from the ranch since their wedding, and the bustle of the larger city was overwhelming at first. Logan had booked them a room at the finest hotel, and they spent 3 days exploring the city, eating in restaurants and attending a theater performance. On their last evening, as they sat in the hotel restaurant, Logan reached across the table and took her hand. The years had added lines to his face and silver to his hair, but to Sophia, he was still the handsome man who had offered to teach her to read. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I am the luckiest man alive," Logan said. "That I would not change a single moment of our life together. Not even the time the bull broke through the fence and ate my entire vegetable garden," Logan laughed. "All right, maybe I would change that moment. You were furious." "I had worked so hard on those tomatoes," Sophia said, smiling at the memory. "But we survived, we always do." "We always will," Logan agreed. "You and me, Sophia. Forever." When they returned to the ranch, the children rushed to greet them, full of stories about their time with Sam the foreman and his wife, who had watched them. The house felt warmer and more welcoming than any hotel could ever be. This was home, built on hard work and faith and a love that had overcome every obstacle. That night, after the children were asleep, Sophia sat at the kitchen table with her journal. The leather was worn now, the pages filled with years of memories. She turned to a fresh page and began to write, her handwriting neat and confident. "Today Logan and I celebrated 10 years of marriage. I still remember the woman I was when I arrived in Park City, scared and alone and unable to read even the simplest word. I remember confessing my shame to Logan, certain he would leave me. Instead, he promised to teach me every night, and he kept that promise. But the lessons were about more than reading and writing. He taught me that I was worthy of love and respect. He taught me that limitations could be overcome with patience and determination. He taught me what it means to be a true partner in life. I am not the same woman I was 10 years ago. I am stronger, wiser, more capable. But the core of who I am remains the same, and Logan loved that person even when I could not love myself. Our children are healthy and happy. The ranch prospers. I have friends and a place in this community. I have work that I love and a husband I adore. I have everything I never dared to dream of, and I am grateful for every single day." The years continued to unfold, bringing their share of challenges and triumphs. There was the drought of 1891 that nearly broke them, forcing them to sell off a third of the herd. The record winter of 1893 that killed cattle across the territory and left everyone struggling. The year, Lizzie got scarlet fever and they spent 2 weeks terrified they would lose her, only to watch her slowly recover. But there were good times too. Sam's 15th birthday, when Logan presented him with his first horse, bought with his own saved wages. Lizzie winning the spelling bee at the county fair 3 years running. Thomas discovering a talent for training horses that made him invaluable around the ranch. Mary's sweet nature that made everyone love her on sight. Sophia's literacy opened doors she had never expected. She started a lending library from their own collection, inviting ranch families to borrow books. She wrote letters for those who could not write themselves, asking nothing in return but paying forward the kindness Logan had shown her. She became known throughout the region as someone who could be counted on to help, whether it was nursing a sick child or organizing a barn raising. The ranch became one of the most successful in the territory, and then the state when Utah achieved statehood in 1896. Logan's reputation for quality cattle and fair dealing brought buyers from across the West, but success never changed him. He treated everyone with respect, from the greenest ranch hand to the wealthiest buyer. He credited Sophia as his partner in everything they achieved, never letting anyone forget that she was his equal. On their 20th anniversary, the whole family gathered for a celebration. Sam was 20, already married to a sweet girl named Anna who fit into the family perfectly. Lizzie was 18, away at a teaching college in Salt Lake City, but home for the summer. Thomas was 15 and already taller than his father. Mary was 10, with her mother's green eyes and her father's smile. They gathered around the big table in the dining room, laden with food Sophia and Anna had spent 2 days preparing. After the meal, Sam stood and raised his glass. "I want to make a toast," he said. "To Ma and Pa, who have shown us all what love and partnership look like. Pa, you built this ranch from nothing and made it into something we can all be proud of. Ma, you came here with nothing and became the heart of this family and this ranch. Thank you for everything you have taught us, for every sacrifice you have made. Here is to 20 more years." "Hear, hear," everyone chorused, raising their glasses. Logan stood, visibly moved. "Thank you, son. But I could not have done any of this without your mother. Sophia is the strongest, smartest, most capable woman I have ever known, and I am honored that she chose me. Every good thing in my life stems from the day she agreed to marry me." Sophia felt tears on her cheeks as Logan sat back down and took her hand. She looked around the table at her children, her daughter-in-law, the family they had built together, and felt a peace so profound it was almost overwhelming. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Logan and Sophia sat on the porch watching the stars. The mountains rose dark against the sky, the same mountains that had witnessed their courtship and marriage and the building of their life together. "You ever regret it?" Sophia asked softly. "Marrying a woman who could not read? The time you spent teaching me when you could have been doing other things." Logan turned to her, his expression serious. "Never. Not for 1 second. Teaching you to read was a gift you gave me, Sophia. It let me be part of your growth, your transformation into the woman you were always meant to be. And those hours we spent together, just the two of us working through lessons, those are some of my most treasured memories. It was when we built the foundation of our marriage, brick by brick." "I love you," Sophia said, "more now than even on our wedding day. And I love you. Always have, always will." They sat in comfortable silence, hands clasped, watching the stars wheel overhead. Sophia thought about the journey that had brought her here, from the terrified young woman on a stagecoach to the confident rancher's wife she had become. It had not been easy, but it had been worth every struggle. The years continued their steady march. Sam and Anna gave them 3 grandchildren, bringing new life and energy to the ranch. Lizzie met a lawyer in Salt Lake City and married, settling there but visiting often. Thomas took over more and more of the daily ranch operations, giving Logan time to slow down as he approached 60. Mary shocked everyone by declaring her intention to study medicine, a bold choice for a young woman in 1899. Through it all, Sophia and Logan remained the center of the family. They still sat together most evenings, reading or talking or simply enjoying each other's company. The passion of their early years had mellowed into something deeper and more enduring, a love that had been tested by time and found unbreakable. On a warm evening in the summer of 1902, as they celebrated their 22nd anniversary, Logan presented Sophia with a gift. It was a book, beautifully bound in leather, with her name embossed on the cover. Curious, she opened it to find her own words staring back at her. Logan had taken her journals, 20 years of daily entries, and had them professionally bound into a single volume. "Your story," he said softly. "From the woman who could not write her name to the woman who documented the building of a family and a legacy. I thought you should have it in a form that will last." Sophia paged through the book, her own words chronicling their life together. She saw the evolution of her handwriting, from shaky and uncertain in the early entries to confident and flowing in the recent ones. She saw the story of a woman finding her place in the world, learning to believe in herself, building something lasting. "Thank you," she whispered. "This is the most precious gift you could have given me." "You gave me the gift," Logan said. "You gave me everything." As the sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Sophia leaned against her husband's shoulder and felt utterly content. The scared, illiterate young woman who had stepped off that stagecoach in Park City was still part of her, but she had been transformed by love and determination into someone stronger. She thought about the moment she had confessed her shame. Certain Logan would turn away. Instead, he had offered to teach her every night, and in doing so had taught her something far more important than reading and writing. He had taught her that she was worthy of love, that limitations could be overcome, that 2 people working together could build something beautiful and lasting. Their children were grown or growing, finding their own paths in the world. The ranch would endure, passed down through generations. But the real legacy was not land or cattle or even the ability to read and write. It was the love they had built together, the family they had raised, the proof that kindness and patience and faith in another person could change lives. Sophia took Logan's hand, feeling the calluses earned through years of hard work, the strength that had never failed her. She thought about all the evenings they had sat together at that kitchen table, her stumbling through lessons while he patiently corrected and encouraged. She thought about the children they had raised, the grandchildren now running through the house, the life they had built from nothing but love and determination. "What are you thinking about?" Logan asked, his voice warm. "About how lucky I am," Sophia said. "About how a confession I thought would drive you away became the foundation of everything we built together." "You were always brave," Logan said. "Admitting you could not read took courage, but you had that courage all along. I just helped you learn the skill." "You gave me so much more than that," Sophia insisted. "You gave me confidence. You gave me a home. You gave me a family. You gave me myself." Logan kissed her temple. "And you gave me the same. Every day with you has been a gift." They sat on the porch as darkness fell, the mountains becoming shadows against the star-filled sky. Inside, they could hear the sounds of their grandchildren settling down for the night, Anna singing a lullaby in her soft voice. The ranch was quiet except for the occasional lowing of cattle and the whisper of wind through the pines. Sophia thought about writing in her journal later, recording this perfect evening. The words would come easily now, flowing from her pen without the struggle of those early days. But the feelings would be the same as always: gratitude, love, and wonder that life had brought her to this place. She remembered Mrs. Patterson's warning all those years ago that a man like Logan Xavier would never choose a woman like her. How wrong the older woman had been. Logan had chosen her not despite her limitations, but because of the person she was underneath. And together, they had proven that love could overcome any obstacle. The future stretched ahead, full of possibilities. More grandchildren, perhaps great-grandchildren. The ranch would continue to prosper under Thomas's capable management. Sam and Anna would build their own legacy. Lizzie would raise her family in Salt Lake City, teaching them the value of education. Mary would break barriers as a female doctor. And through it all, Logan and Sophia would remain the heart of the family, the proof that two people who believed in each other could build something extraordinary. As they finally rose to go inside, Logan paused and pulled Sophia close. "Thank you," he said softly, "for taking a chance on a cowboy who promised to teach you, for building this life with me, for being exactly who you are." "Thank you for seeing me," Sophia replied, "for looking past what I could not do and seeing who I could become. For keeping your promise, night after night, until I could write my own story." They walked into the house together, hand in hand as they had been for 22 years. The lamp on the kitchen table cast a warm glow, the same table where they had spent so many evenings working through lessons. Sophia ran her hand over the worn surface, remembering the frustration and triumph of those early days. Logan watched her, understanding in his eyes. "Should we read together before bed, like old times?" Sophia smiled. "I would like that." They settled on the couch with a book of poetry, taking turns reading aloud. Logan's voice was still strong and sure, though age had added a gravelly quality. Sophia's voice had gained confidence over the years, no longer hesitating over words. They read until the clock struck 10, then closed the book and prepared for bed. As Sophia brushed out her hair, now streaked with silver, she caught Logan's eye in the mirror. He was watching her with such love that it took her breath away, even after all these years. "I would do it all again," she said. "Every struggle, every hard day, every moment of doubt, because it led me to you and to this life." "As would I," Logan said. He came to stand behind her, his hands on her shoulders. "You are my greatest adventure, Sophia Xavier, my greatest love, my greatest blessing." They climbed into bed, the same bed where they had slept for over 2 decades, where their children had been conceived, where they had talked through problems and celebrated triumphs. Logan pulled Sophia close and she nestled against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Logan replied. "Tonight and every night for all the nights we have left." Sophia closed her eyes, content and at peace. Outside, the wind whispered through the valley, carrying the scent of pine and sage. Inside, all was warm and safe. This was home, built on a foundation of love and patience and the simple promise that Logan had made all those years ago. "Then I will teach you every night." He had kept that promise and in doing so had given Sophia the world. She had arrived in Park City with nothing, unable to read or write, alone and frightened. But she had found Logan, and he had seen her worth when she could not see it herself. Together, they had built a life richer than any she could have imagined. As sleep claimed her, Sophia's last thought was of gratitude. For Logan, for their children, for the ranch, for the ability to read the books she loved and write the stories she wanted to preserve. But most of all, for the love that had transformed her life and proven that with the right partner, anything was possible. The story of Sophia Turner, who became Sophia Xavier, who learned to read and write and build a legacy, was one worth telling. It was a story of courage and determination, of love conquering limitations, of two people choosing each other against the odds. And it was a story with the happiest of endings. A life well lived, a family well loved, and a partnership that endured through everything the years could bring. In the morning, they would wake to another day on the ranch, to grandchildren clamoring for breakfast and work that needed doing. But for now, they slept peacefully in each other's arms, the cowboy and the woman he had taught to read, bound together by promises kept and love that would last a lifetime.